Hi Unite and welcome to Geelong Tertiary Futures Programs Module 1. I am the lead teacher for the program and my name is Maria Howard. So today I'm going to show you the basics of jumping online and doing this lesson with us. So hopefully your teacher has got this video up and running and you're working on this as a whole class. If you miss class for any reason and you're watching this on your own, that's good, but it's just it seems to be much better when everyone is doing this as a whole class. So right now I am going to share my screen with you and take you through Gordon Online. So what you're seeing here is the welcome page to Gordon Online. Just going to move myself up a bit. And all of the modules are down here on the left-hand side. So 1 to 9 are our modules, and that is over a period of 9 weeks as well. So this page has the 2 units of competency that we do: communicate in the workplace and contribute to health and safety of self and others. There is a little video here if you would like to look at that, but that is entirely up to you. It's an introduction to the different courses that we offer at the Gordon. But without further ado, I'm going to go into module 1. Click on that on the left. If you want to follow this through with me, you can, or if you're on your own, that's what you should be doing. So the format of every module or lesson is the same. It'll have the title, it'll have some kind of photo that represents what we're going to be doing, and today it is verbal and non-verbal communication. Underneath that will be the tutorial that I'm actually recording today, so I will be replacing this one because I didn't like that one. And underneath that is the H5P lesson that you will scroll down to when I tell you to pause the video. So I might say pause, scroll down to the H5P, and you'll go on to say slide 6. But we'll work through that in a minute. So it's all placed directly underneath. Underneath this, now this is unusual because not every lesson has a learning activity like this, but this learning activity is about common industry areas that we offer through our TAFE system. So click here if you'd like to have a little bit more of a look at that, and that is made up of the videos in these industries. Hospitality, so that's to do with like cafe work and service and hotels and restaurants and events, that kind of thing. Automotive, about cars, and that's both in their engines and their interior and exterior, or hairdressing, and I think that's self-explanatory, or recreation, which if you go down to recreation here, it is about, getting active and that kind of thing. So, sorry, I will scroll past that onto the next thing. So I'll close that. The next thing is a knowledge check. Every lesson you will have a knowledge check. I try to keep them as short as possible too. And that will unlock the next assessment. Or the next task rather, which is an assessment. So every lesson we do an assessment task. That means we're biting off little chunks as we go. Usually they're between 3 and 10 questions. So they're quite small, but they stay locked until you complete the knowledge checks, which are very similar in their content to the assessment task, but you need to complete a knowledge check with 80% or more pass rate, which will say to me you're ready to go and do the assessment. Now, all assessments, you are only given 2 opportunities to sit that assessment or to attempt it before you are locked out, and therefore you don't pass that module. So it's really important that you know the content, and I have put all of the content into the knowledge checks and the H5P lessons and a tutorial. Every single piece of information that you actually need is in this H5P. Okay, so coming back up, you'll see again, we've got all the units, and then we go into the module. So today, we're talking about verbal and non-verbal. So verbal is about speaking or writing. Non-verbal is anything else that you kind of sort of can communicate something apart from using voice and writing. So in this visual you're seeing right now, we've got a letter. So you're writing a very old-fashioned phone and a very modern phone next to it. So if you've got an iPhone or something like that, you're able to communicate via phone messages, text messages. You can speak on the phone, so that's the best form of communication on that device. You can leave voice messages, you can do FaceTime, make Snapchats and that kind of thing, which leads me to the next one, which is social media. That's the way often I find that you guys will be communicating. A microphone is here and a walkie-talkie is here. So communicating lets us interact with each other and finds out what each other wants to say, and then we can also hear as well. So the way you guys tend to be doing it is a little bit of Snapchat, a bit of a phone conversation. You might communicate stuff on YouTube. So you might be a YouTuber, or you might look at a lot of YouTubes to learn a lot of things. Same as TikTok. So either you are a TikToker or you like watching TikToks, and that kind of sort of makes it fun. So communication is all about wanting someone to understand you or you wanting to understand them. And that might be about speaking, listening, writing, reading. You might include gestures like they are doing in this photograph. So they're pointing or they're showing each other stuff. And there's facial expressions too. So if they weren't like happy looking, you'd kind of sort of be feeling a little bit uncomfortable, right? Also, workplace communication. I'm not going to read all this out, but workplace communication is similar to any kind of communication that you get. Must be clear and concise. So say you're in a job and you don't know what to do. Either you ask a supervisor, so you're communicating with them verbally, or that you might have to go to a folder like the one in the picture and you find out what it is, the thing that you need to do if, say, someone slips over. All right. At school, you do the same thing. So when you get your assignments, that might be written, that might be verbal. But what if, you know, you find the instructions not clear enough? Then you go and ask a question, another form of communication. And then with your friends, well, I reckon it's kind of sort of different, and we'll get to that in a minute. So just here on this slide, we've got 3 different scenarios of 3 different types of relationships. And in each of the relationships, you speak differently. So maybe the father and the son, he might speak with like simple words and be gentle, and he's really smiling and engaged. Whereas a grandmother and her granddaughter, or it could be her daughter, there tends to be a lot more respect, and you also pay attention to the loudness of your voice, because often elderly people are starting to go deaf. And the last one is an interview situation. So you're going to be on your best behavior. You're going to make sure that you're clear, hopefully, so that you actually get the job. So your besties are the people that you are most comfortable with. And so I reckon that's where the most honesty happens, and you don't have to pretend to be anyone else. That's what a friend is. And that's when you get the most fluid and open and honest conversations happening. So what I want you to do now is get out a pen and paper, and you're going to watch this video and pause my tutorial while you watch it, and make sure that you have those 12 different ways to improve your communication skills instantly. I'll see you in a minute. So hopefully you're back and you're on slide 8. This is the in brief version of what you should have been writing down. And just on the last one, smiling. It's really, really positive to smile. It's very engaging, and it is worth 1,000 stars. So don't keep hiding that smile. In the video, it said, you know, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you've got to be confident. And so that's kind of hard, isn't it? Especially when you're like at that 15, 16, kind of feeling a little bit awkward sometimes. So just someone saying, be confident, it's really hard. So I'm going to take you through a few things that might help you. And so this next slide, slide 10, you can come back to at any point, right? And come back, think about the one that you wanted to think about, or think about the one that really mystified you the most, or talk about it with your mates and say, what was she on about? And try and decipher that. But in brief, well, facing your fear, sometimes people will go, huh? That means like, and it's the combination of both facing your fear and set a realistic goal to take action to achieve it. So it might be something like, I hate going into the supermarket because there's so many people. So maybe just set yourself a task. Say, I'm going to do it once a week. I'm going to go in and I'm going to do that for a little while. Then I'm going to go in twice a week. Or maybe it's that you're going out somewhere and just do little bit by little bit and achieve those small goals that you set yourself and celebrate them, because, hey, I did it. It wasn't so hard, but you have to give it a go. The next one's really good because it's all about failure. So if you haven't failed, it means you probably haven't tried. But you know what? When people come into my class and they say, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, I say, well, that's why we're having this class, because you're gonna learn something. I don't expect you to come into my class and know everything, because otherwise, why would you come? This, I reckon, is the most important that I could tell you that I've used in my past. Fake it till you make it. So think of someone who you think is really confident. And when you're about to do something where you need confidence, envisage that person in your head and think, how would they do this? Take a deep breath and give it a go. So use them as your inspiration. Empowering music is great. So have you ever done a workout where there's no music? Like, how annoyed do you feel, or how bored? Try it. And making a difference, so doing something in your community, that's really empowering because you feel good. So sorry if I talked too long on this one, but I really thought it was important. So effective communication. This guy in the photo, he's got to speak clearly. He's got to use good words that it's going to communicate with the people that are around him. They have to listen. And he's going to use voice, intonation of his voice, and probably facial expressions and gestures as well. So next, I'm going to get you to look at the video on the next page. And what I want you to take and pay attention to and write it down as well. What kind of forms of verbal and non-verbal communication do you see between Penny and Sheldon? Okay, so pause me now and go have a look. So I'll just go back to this one. So with those, I'm just quickly going to say, so there was intonation. She was kind of sort of sounding a bit annoyed with her voice. He was a little bit monotone. Remember that the body language. So he would try to give her a hug, but he was so uncomfortable. He really communicated that well. And there was a little bit of like that annoyed tone in Penny's voice, and her body was facing away from him some of the time because she started to get really, really annoyed with him. So I hope you got a lot from that. So when we're verbally communicating, as I said to you before, it is about speaking and writing. So making sure they're really clear. When you're speaking on the phone, maybe that's the verbal communication happening in a voice kind of instance, but she's also using that verbal communication to write something down. So she's reconfirming what whoever is saying something, or giving her directions, or giving her probably an order on the phone. So it's listening and writing down and then speaking to reconfirm what that person wants. So 3 different forms. So this is a workplace. It's kind of sort of like a staff room or a meeting room. There's several different ways of communicating going on in this room. Now, I want to show you one. This is not as obvious, but it's still communication when you put a notice up on the board. Everyone still sees it and they read it when they want. The most obvious communication is happening all the way down here at the front, where there's a main speaker and she's pointing to charts. So her speaking is a form of communication. Her showing charts and writing is a form. They're all listening, but they're also seem to be writing down notes. Now, whether that is to make a document, or if they're sending an email, any one of those things. So several different ways of communicating. This next video with the dreaded Darth Vader, It's old, I give you that, but I couldn't find anything that demonstrated what I wanted to talk about better than this. So I want you to pay attention to the body language because it's quite stilted because it's in Lego, but that means it's exaggerated. Listen to the tone of his voice and the food service voice and tell your teacher or your classmates what you notice. So pause me now and watch this video right here. See you in a minute. Okay, I thought it was really funny, so I hope you did too. This is all about non-verbal, no writing, no talking. Have a look at this picture. What's going on? So they're using facial expressions as their main form of communication. What do these faces communicate to you? Does it match up with my guesses? Maybe you could give your teacher some feedback. What about eye contact? So lady on the left, she's eyeballing. I'm looking at you. I'm watching what you're doing. In our culture, in the Western culture, when you look someone in the eye, you're sending out that you're trustworthy, that you're not lying, that you're being direct and open and honest. Okay? And in the second picture, obviously, that's a business transaction and it's a very formal way, but there's definitely eye contact happening, and that will give each of those people the feeling that the other has understood what they've said. Whereas in other cultures, say, for instance, you've got the photo on the left of Japanese geisha women. So they do the tea ceremony and they're regarded as performers. And so it is disrespectful to be looking into the eyes of those people. In Japanese culture is seen as being a lot more gentle and feminine to look and cast their eyes down. Also, Hispanic, Asian, Middle Eastern, and Native American women are not supposed to look directly into a man's eyes, and that's because it's seen as a really intimate form of communication. So, what about body language? I love the girl, top left. She's a grumpy little 4-year-old. What does it say with this lady here? She just doesn't look like she wants to do anything that you might tell her to do. So she's exuding that kind of like, I don't really care what you say, might as well say it, and I'll just ignore you. Or this young man here, totally exasperated, in a bad mood. Where do you want to go? Do you want to be with him or do you want to move away? Because I would. So all these ones on the bottom are more kind of engaging and open. So they're smiling, they're friendly. This guy's got his arms open. This girl has two. She's got the thumbs up. So who do you want to hang with? Right? Think about that. When you're going for a job, who does that person want to hang with? Do they want to hang around with you while they're working? That boss of yours wants someone who they don't mind being in their workspace. You know what I'm saying? So finally, there is this Friends video. And this talks about so many different non-verbal communications. So this first slide, you can see right at the start of the video, is about spatial behaviors. So that is when, say, for instance, you really want to talk to someone, you'd probably move closer to them. But if you didn't really want to talk to that person, you would move back. And it's exactly what's happening in this first instance. So have a little look, have a discussion with your teacher in your class about what kind of behaviors you see that don't even need words. So what I want you to do after that, so you don't pause me just yet, but you can watch that in a minute. But your next thing to do is to do your knowledge check. So once you've watched this is really important. Once you've watched this and you've scrolled through each of the slides and touched on them and opened them up, that tells Gordon Online that you've done the lesson. It then unlocks the next thing, which is the knowledge check. Do the knowledge check. Work through. You can work through as a class, get the help of your teacher, make sure you get 80% or above, and then it will unlock the assessment task. Okay? So every lesson, I usually jump in live at the start and I tend to hover in the background whilst your teacher is delivering the lesson and you're running through my tutorial. So if you have any questions about the knowledge checks or if you have any questions about the assessment task, you can always say, hey, Miss Jones, can you please ask Marina this question? Or put it in the forum on the welcome page, and I will answer that for you. Now, just remember, there is one thing. No question is a stupid question, because it's probably something that everybody else is asking. And honestly, if you're asking the question, it means that I haven't been clear in the way that I've designed my question. So I really like that feedback as well, because I want you guys to understand what I've got to say. So go forth and conquer, have fun, do the best you can, and please sing out if you need anything answered. Okay, see ya.